You know how I know you're gay?
I like Star Wars.
Yep. That's how I know it.
What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the engagingly eccentric Dr. Disaster. And obviously, Star Wars is in a bit of a crappy place right now where almost nothing that's released with the Star Wars name on it sells well. Many of us see the Star Wars logo, and our knee-jerk reaction is to assume that what it's about is
something gay, no doubt.
I mean, just look at how The Mandalorian and Grogu did earlier this year. It bombed harder than Solo, a Star Wars story, hitting only $345 million at the box office. The production budget was around $150 million by the time you factor in tax credits, and the marketing budget was estimated to be, at a minimum, $120 million. This would mean they spent at a minimum $270 million on the film, and since only half the ticket sales go to Disney, they lost damn near $100 million at the box office. The same sort of thing happened with Star Wars Outlaws a few years ago. That Ubisoft game had a budget of around $300 million after marketing was accounted for, and to date they have sold an estimated 1.5 million copies. Even the CEO of Ubisoft has come out and said it. Star Wars is not a big selling point any longer. They went out of their way to modernize Star Wars over at Disney, and they've accomplished it. Now, for a lot of people, there is only one thing we see when the Star Wars logo comes up.
Gay, 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 gay.
That explains why we are seeing this stupid crap right here. As Yellow Flash said in his X post, Disney is getting desperate. They've got a Star Wars and Marvel crossover event going on, apparently being written by Kevin Smith, and not only are Luke Skywalker and Captain America at the forefront of this image, showing it off, the symbols of the fandom who were forced to pass off the torch to the diverse options that nobody gives a shit about in the Star Wars Cinematic Universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe respectively. Not only are they now at the forefront though, but one interesting thing that I see as a professional noticer of things is that every single character, even the X-Wing pilots in the background, are white folks. And not only that, but only one character in this image is a girl. They didn't even throw in Princess Leia, and they sure as hell did not use Rey. Clearly, they will be baiting and switching because that is what Disney does with these brands, but this image really is an admission that the marketing must change.
I'm sorry.
It's too late.
Well, as an example of how these idiots who make all the Star Wars things these days have no intention of actually changing their ways and making better product, it turns out that the developers of the upcoming Star Wars Zero Company have decided to go with they/them pronouns for their main character. On the one hand, this is likely simply because the player can choose either a male or female option for this main character, and they wanted to save money on voice actors by not adding specific gendered language. But to think that in this climate people would be okay with they/them crap in a game, and that it should be the default, to think that is extremely telling, and in my view, Star Wars does not get the benefit of the doubt at all. And if anyone out there wonders why that is, my explanation is simple.
Because you're a faggot, all right?
Alright, me hearties, some important context To understand about this article that we're going to read from Rock Paper Shotgun, this game, Star Wars Zero Company, is being published by EA, and as you likely know by now, that company was recently purchased by the Saudi Arabians and by an outfit run by Donald Trump's son-in-law. So, it has been speculated that these guys at EA are no longer going to be tolerant of the LGBT slop that has infested games from that publisher like Dragon Age the Veilguard and caused them to flop like crazy. This outlet that wrote the article that we're going to read was clearly looking for an excuse to try and shit on EA and find ways to complain about how the company is likely no longer going to be run by people who are definitively on their political side. As a company that is now massively in debt due to the buyout, these people will be incentivized to run things like an actual business. With that context in mind, here is the article. I will drop a link to it in the description of the video. It says down here, in Bit Reactor's XCOM-style tactics RPG, Star Wars Zero Company, you play a custom character called Hawks, who is referred to using they-them pronouns. With my armchair producer hat on, I suspect this is partly just a way to avoid recording several sets of voice lines for different player pronoun choices, but Zero Company as a whole does support expressions of gender that differ from heteronormative male and female archetypes, or at least which differ enough to make me a cisgender writer, curious about expressions of queerness and transness elsewhere in Star Wars. And oh wow, what a white knight this writer is, so stunningly virtuous. I am practically blinded by his love of the alphabet people, but like I said before, this is enough for me to say hell no to this game. I am not interested. The developers chose to go with they-them pronouns, knowing full well what kind of climate that we're in right now, and knowing full well what the implications are. They might be coy and pretend like they aren't making some kind of a statement, but I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt. Sure, it might have meant that they can save money on voice actors referring to the character as they and them instead of doing separate lines for he, him, and she, her, but you know what else would have saved money? Just make the character a male or a female. If you are dead set on saving a few bucks, then save even more money and cut out the gender options completely. This was a half measure, and it assumes that people are okay with their character being referred to as they throughout the game. If they didn't ever see the character, the people that are referring to this main character in the game, if they didn't see that character and they didn't know the gender of that person, then that would be one thing. If it was just referring to the character as they or them one time, that would make sense and I'd be okay with it, but this was very purposefully embracing one side of the culture war from the sound of things, so they can F themselves as far as I am concerned. But we're going to skip down to here in the article where they have a quote from the head of the studio that made this game. It says, "I think Star Wars is about characters and uniqueness, and we wanted to support a player's ability to represent whatever they wanted to represent as their version of Hawks." CEO and creative director Greg Forch told me in an interview after I'd spent a few hours with a beta version of the game. There's no canon Hawks per se, there's one on the box cover just for a marketing perspective, but it's like allowing people to explore Star Wars in a way that they want to do it, whether it's a combination of characteristics that is very unique or something that's a little more predictable. In closing, he reiterated that the thought behind it is to allow players to express themselves however they want, and whatever you relate to as your thing, again, it's your Star Wars story. They don't want to come right out and admit it because they know that wokeness is poison for sales, but these people are also trying their damnedest to make it clear that they are also supportive of this stuff. as the article itself writes here, as pro-LGBTQ+ rhetoric goes, this is pretty mild. You could characterize the "it's your story, whoever you are" sentiment as essentially handing off the politics of the representation to the player, but Forge seemed sincere, and as such, I was also curious to know how BitReactor feel about being published by the new incarnation of Electronic Arts. And then the article goes on to talk at length about how EA was purchased, and he discusses how Saudi Arabia is very anti-LGBT and anti-women's rights, which is funny because the religion at the center of that country is now at the heart of progressive thought. I'd say these progressives are borderline retarded, but let's face it, they don't believe in borders, so I'll just say that they are full-on mentally deficient. But anyhow, he eventually gets to the quote from the head of BitReactor talking about EA. It says here, "Our relationship with EA has been great, Forge told me. Our relationship with Lucasfilm is also amazing. It's more about the people we work with. So yeah, time will tell. I mean, right now, like you said, our deal with them is from way before any of this, and the political part is not something that we have given a lot of thought to at this point. We're trying to get this thing out the door, so all that paint is pretty fresh. So we'll see," he went on. But again, our relationships with everybody we've been working with are really good, and we absolutely love the support we've gotten from EA and Lucas and Respawn. Couldn't ask for better people to be working with. I should note that there were EA PR representatives on the call during the interview. They remained silent throughout all this, beyond nudging me to keep an eye on the time. Well, I will tell you what time it is, folks. For me, it is time to ignore another Star Wars release. I am decidedly non-binary for this sort of thing. Anyhow, make sure to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already, and if you're already subscribed, make sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. Lots of people tell me all the time they've been unwillingly unsubscribed, and also don't forget to follow me over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1. But I'm going to leave it there. What do you make of this Star Wars Zero Company situation? Drop your thoughts on all this into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.